What is up, plant people? It's Tuesday, April 7th, 2020, and this is Vikram Baliga, your host, back with another episode of Planthropology. How's everyone doing? You hanging in there? I know for me, you may or may not have noticed that I'm quite the extrovert, so this social distancing has been quite the challenge for me, but you know what? We're doing okay. We're doing what we're supposed to do, and we are trying our best to make sure that everyone stays healthy and that we can get back to our lives as soon as possible. So stay in, stay safe, all of that. That's pretty much all I'm going to say about that for today. I have a great episode for you today, but I wanted to start off by reading you a review. And this one is on iTunes from my friend Paul Chomo. And he says, the podcast about plants, agriculture, soil, water, and conversations with interesting people that I didn't know I needed. Vikram presents the information in a way that is down to earth and interesting. Well done. Paul, man, I appreciate that more than I can tell you. If you don't know, Paul is the host of the Varmints podcast, which is just stellar. And he's been doing it for quite a while now. I think they're on episode 106 or something like that. So if you haven't listened to Varmints, definitely go do that. If you're into animals, you are going to love it. It's safe for work, great for your family, and really just a fun time. So Paul, again, thanks for the kind words and your support. You've just been such a good friend through this process. A quick note. So for the folks that donate on Patreon, and if you still want to do that, it's patreon.com/planthropology. But for the next couple of months, while we're still in weird times, if you have to pull your support, I totally get that. It's very uncertain. But Paul, who I just mentioned, actually gave me the great idea that I'm going to donate anything that I get in from y'all on Patreon over the next 2 or 3 months to our local food bank and make sure that people that need food can get it. So it's not a lot of money, but every little bit helps. So I appreciate y'all's support and just your interest in the show and you wanting to help out. So I'm not going to try to talk you out of supporting, but just know that for the next little bit, any money that comes in through Patreon is going to go to our local South Plains food bank. So another thing that I wanted to mention is our Facebook group. And if you're not a part of the Planthropology's Cool Plant People Facebook group, you really need to be. It's a lot of fun. We share lots of memes and I post updates, and there's just really fun conversation from a lot of the plant people who listen to the show like you do. We've got a lot of great episodes coming up. I've mentioned before, but through April and hopefully May, if I've got enough content, I'm going to release episodes pretty much weekly, just so you have something else to do as you're home with your families. Again, this is a show that y'all can listen to together, and it's just great information for anyone who wants to listen. Our guests are brilliant and interesting and funny, and this is really a great show in spite of my rambling. So please listen with your families and let me know if there's anything you'd like me to cover. Okay, so jumping into today's episode, I sat down quite a while ago, I think in January or February, and talked with my friend, Dr. Jessica Tullar Caroom, who is a public health professional and has great knowledge about epidemiology and biological statistics and all kinds of things. But more recently, and the way I know her is she heads up a lot of the community gardening efforts in the school gardening efforts and community gardens, I guess, in the Lubbock area. And she works with the hunger and horticulture group of the South Plains Hunger Solutions organization. She is a wealth of knowledge on gardening and public health and ways that we can get kids to eat vegetables and ways that we can get adults to eat vegetables and how to run so many of these projects. And I've got to tell you, I just really, really enjoyed talking to Jessica, and I value her input on so many things. So I think y'all are really, really going to love this episode. Now, we don't talk about coronavirus or anything on the public health front from that standpoint. However, the idea of getting out and gardening and spending time in your yard and growing your own food and getting fresh air and getting exercise are all relevant today. And I think that from a public health standpoint and just a personal health standpoint, those are all things we should be doing at any time, pandemic or otherwise. So sit back, gather the family around, pop some popcorn. I don't know. That's maybe counterintuitive to what we're going to talk about. I don't think popcorn's really a vegetable, but enjoy. Let me know what you think. And as always, thank you so much for listening. Well, thanks for being here with me today, Jessica.
Thank you, Vikram, for having me. I appreciate it.
So, tell me about yourself. I have known you from a lot of the school and community gardening efforts in West Texas. We met, probably 4 years ago, 3 years ago?
Yes.
I don't know.
I think it was 4. And I was directed to your office when you were the Ag Extension agent because I was starting a school garden at Christ the King. And you gave me some of the cornerstone advice that I think I've then shared with multiple people as they talk about gardens. And that is to not start too big. Try and start small, which is good advice for like all kinds of things. And then there were several things that like I had people putting up roadblocks and questions, and you appropriately blew them off. No, not a barrier, not an issue. So like we were like, we're gonna take all the leaves. Are any of these trees? Should we not compost these leaves? You're like, no, all of the leaves. It's just fine. These are all great.
Right.
But these are the things that people in the community ask you, and as a layperson, as a person who's not a horticulturist, like I guess I'll ask someone. Let's go find someone who knows that answer.
Right.
So anyway.
Okay. Well, and those have been really cool. Probably, and we'll get into the details of some of this a little bit more later.
Yes.
But it's been really cool to see these community garden efforts and school garden efforts specifically grow over the past several years.
Yes.
It's gone from it seems to me like it's gone from 2 or 3 schools to like dozens. I don't really know.
Right.
Lots of schools.
Right. Well, so I think a couple things. One, I think that I happened to be coming online, Christ King happened to be coming online at the same time that the Texas Hunger Initiative, which is based out of Waco, was building a hunger coalition in Lubbock. And as part of that whole hunger coalition, wanted to have a focus on supporting school and community gardens. I also was having the same thought of, I've been doing this for a year with this school garden, and you came out and saw the progress I'd made after a year. And I said, who could I talk to? How could I get together with people that do this? Could we learn from each other? Could we join efforts? Could there be some, I don't know, sharing of resources? And I'm not a horticulturist. I've learned a hobby gardener in my backyard. Like maybe there's something, again, obviously about West Texas that I don't know, not being from this area, that I could learn. And just so happens they were already kind of working on some of that.
Right.
And so that was like very serendipitous that worked out together. I think that actually there were a lot more school gardens, but we weren't talking to each other. And so nobody knew about it.
Yeah.
And like the list, the Texas Hunger Initiative, before I found out about them, before whatever, I was even looking at this area, they had a whole evaluation. They had a list of gardens from 6 years ago at this point, I think. And we've now learned is that at least I want to say 50% of those are no longer active gardens.
Wow. That's a big number.
There are a lot of gardens out there that have been built, that someone put resources and time. They got a grant for it. They put it, it's in the ground. That's the biggest cost.
Right. And
then that energy, that whatever, maybe that person moved on, like whatever that is. And so, my new mantra used to be when I first was joining Texas Hunger Initiative and doing this coalition, my mantra, I definitely was very excited about more school gardens. We need all the school gardens. And now it's like, no. We need more gardeners. We need more gardeners because when that person gets tired out or they move, we all have things.
Oh, yeah.
It happens.
Yeah.
So, but if there was a bigger percentage of the population that was gardening, then people wouldn't feel so, oh gosh, well, I can't do that. I've got a black thumb. And I'm going to kill everything or whatever else.
Yeah.
There'd be that lower barrier to entry. That's not this pressure. So yeah, we need more gardeners. There are resources out there. There are gardens. I have them. So we have a map of all the gardens now, which that wasn't a thing. That wasn't existing that I know of.
So that's really cool, by the way.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
The online map. So we'll include it in your show notes.
Yeah, I'll put the link.
Yeah. Some of those gardens aren't active right now. And that's a thing. We're working on that map on adding more resources to it in the sense of like right now where I have a contact, whether it's a Facebook page or a website or whatever, an email address if I can. But some of those gardens aren't active, and so there may not be a contact person. But if you reach out to us, we'll find somebody. If you're interested in like contributing partially, like I want to take one bed from this place, like that's something I would love to work on.
Yeah.
Getting some of those gardens that aren't, they're there. The resources are there and nobody's loving on them. That just breaks my heart, breaks our collective hearts.
Well, and that's such an interesting thought too, that there's people that want to garden.
Yeah.
And for whatever circumstance of life, whether it's space or time or, the stuff, like you said, lives happen.
Yeah.
We're busy. We move around. We live in an apartment. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But the thought that, well, on the other side of this, okay, school gardens are great. We're teaching kids about growing food, about the sources of their food, about nature. But if you could give someone that really wants to garden, or really wants to have some kind of an outdoor activity, like half a bed in a school garden that they help maintain.
Oh, yeah.
That solves a lot of problems.
Absolutely. And there's school. I think there could be school partnerships and opportunities. I think there's obviously community gardens that could be shared that way. Right now, they're not necessarily, but they could be. So that's all conversations I think are available. So yeah, I think this was not new knowledge. There were 17. I don't know that maybe there were only 15 gardens before last year, but like there have been one or two more, and there's more coming online theoretically.
Right.
All the time. But then more than anything, just getting them in circulation. I'm going to use that word.
I like that actually. Yeah, that's a good one. Because the space is there. The infrastructure is in a lot of cases done.
It's almost absolutely.
You just need the people to do it.
Yes.
Huh.
And so I think getting together and talking about it, which is what the Hunger and Horticulture team, part of the South Plains Hunger Solutions, and we're South Plains Hunger Solutions on Facebook and Instagram. That's what we do. We meet at different gardens or farms, and we have about 10 meetings a year. So it's not every month, but we meet at different places, or the greenhouse we've met here before.
Right. Yep.
So as a person, even in the community, even if you didn't have a garden, even yourself, it's an excuse to go see what grows and how people are doing and how they're doing things. If you do have a school garden, it's great to see how did they tackle that challenge? How did they, what are some things they're doing I'd like to do? Or it's also great to host, I think, because although everyone feels a little uncomfortable, just like when you invite people over to your house, no one wants people in your garden like, don't notice the things I didn't fix already. I left the plant there. I should have transplanted, whatever. It's a great opportunity to get some input because we have farmers that come. We have other school garden parent like me. But so if you're like, I can't figure out what to do about this thing, so I just keep doing this. And then oftentimes there's some kind of person who's either done it before or actually is trained and has expertise. So they can say, right? Whoa. And so they can say like, oh, try this out, or I use this seed instead of that seed, or, so that's been fun too, to try and, even if you're hosting, you still get something out of it, is you get some literally expert consultation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Opportunity. So,
absolutely. No, and that's really cool. And I really like the project and the vision of the project. So I want to take a step back for a minute, and we'll come back to this a little bit more, but tell me about, how did you get here? How did so good. Because your background, I think, is vastly different than most of the people I've talked to on this show, which is a good thing. I think it's really cool. It's confusing
when people say, so they know if people find me in Lubbock, they might, find me through CTK Garden, or if it's South Plains Hunger Solutions, or even Junior League, I'm involved in all those things. And so little known secret, not that it's a secret, but I actually have a job in Houston. So I'm a public health professional. I have a background in public health. My degree is in epidemiology with like a minor in biostatistics, but please don't.
Is that all just a minor? Yeah. Okay.
So like there's that, but I got to a point where I do spend still all this time on these scientific papers, which are important and they move the field forward. But there was a part of me that was like, 10 people read this. I spent 4 whole months of my life.
Right.
Or more.
Right.
Or more.
Yeah.
That's just the writing of the first draft before you even get to all the revisions and the publication and whatever else and any presentations you did on it. And maybe, if you get to a presentation page, maybe you got to 25 people.
Yeah.
But when I work at CTK Garden, I'm a parent there, a volunteer, not a teacher. It's just something I've done as a passion project. I get 15 kids multiple times a week, and they could be anywhere at CTK, anywhere from pre-K all the way up to high school. And I'm having all kinds of conversations and just blowing minds multiple times a week.
And that's fun.
It's fun.
So much fun.
It's so fun. So yeah, it's a very practical part of public health. And the good news is, well, they're not funding me to do it, but my department has been very supportive of, no, you're doing public health. Like,
yeah,
don't be afraid to say you're from UT School of Public Health. That's fine. Because yeah, it's a very practical side of it. So yeah, I started it as a parent in a school that wanted to do something more for my kids' school. Wanted to give them an opportunity to be outside and to have practical science, math, also history. Also, I mean, in our school, it's a Catholic school. Religion can tie in as well.
Oh, sure.
All kinds of opportunities to tie in curriculum to something outside. We in Lubbock, unfortunately, have some days where it's kind of unpleasant to be outside. And so it makes it feel like all the days are unpleasant to be outside if you didn't have an excuse to be outside. But no, there are many days that are also very pleasant to be outside. And so if you have an excuse to get out there, you're looking for that chance.
Yeah.
And so, and I'm just a big fan of practical education.
Sure.
So yeah, I started this and had some parents that were interested and some teachers, and I was enjoying social media as far as that kind of education mode. And so I started a social media account and then I wanted to do more with connecting with other school gardens. I had a meeting where I was talking about how great school gardens were with somebody, an administrator at a public school. And they said, well, that's fine and good for a private school. And I have a defiant side, and that definitely raised my hackles. So that's definitely brought my attention to public schools and how could this be done in public schools? What are the models that work, and what are the different things? And it's going to look different for every school, and it's really going to depend on the culture and the principal and all the things. But I do believe it's possible.
Oh, yeah.
And so
yeah, absolutely.
So I work towards that. So that's something I want to support and want to encourage, and that's fine and good.
I'm just like, I'm imagining this conversation, like having known you for a little while.
Having known that I have no poker face, and having known
maybe.
What could I possibly have
that's really funny. But you know what? That's really interesting that we get so many of those kinds of comments, especially around here.
Oh, yeah.
Which is weird for me in such an agricultural. So if you're out there listening and you don't know anything about West Texas, we grow about 25% of the nation's output in cotton.
Yes. In
the 2 or 3 county area around us.
Yes.
We're incredibly agricultural. It's 95% of our acres. We also grow food. We say food, fiber, and fuel. So a little bit of everything. But then you get into some of these city environments. And Lubbock's not huge. We've mentioned this before. It's about 300,000 people. But I mean, that's a fair sized city. That is not a small town.
Right.
And you say, well, we're going to grow some food. We're going to teach these kids to grow food. They're like, oh, no, we can't do it. That doesn't make any sense. It's not possible.
There's all kinds of barriers. That's fine and good but we can't do it because we're under resourced. That was that's fine and good for private school was about resources. There's I've seen gardens come and go. I've heard that.
Right.
That's another comment I've heard. We don't have an active, as far as school gardens, we don't have an active involved parental base. Okay. That's another barrier. The resources thing, that really shouldn't affect existing gardens.
No,
I really think that should be of zero impact. So any school out there that has a garden right now, finding resources, seeds. If you have any need of seeds, please let us know, because Southwest Hunger Solutions can get you some flippin' seeds.
Yep.
So we've got lots of seeds. Maybe it's irrigation. Maybe it's compost. But these are all resources that the Hunger and Horticulture team has been working on getting and making sure that that's not a barrier. So once you're already in business, resources should not be an issue. Parental involvement, that is a real issue. It does take some time. I think for some schools, you're going to have a community partner organization like a church or something that could help kind of provide some of the in-between stuff. I think there's lots of other models. So that's one solution. And I think it's going to have to be a conversation
absolutely,
to figure that out.
Well, and for me, it seems like now, and okay, I can't, this is a blanket statement and I can't speak for everyone, but I think generally, I would say most parents, if they were presented the things in the right way, and they were given the opportunities in the right way, I don't know a lot of parents that were just like, nah, I don't want to help. I don't want to be involved at all. And it happens. I know it does happen.
Yes.
But I'm just thinking, like, I'm very busy.
Yes.
And so when, my son's only 3, but his school still does stuff. They're like, hey, come to this thing at 2 p.m. I'm like, well, I can't.
Not that. Yeah.
But if they said, well, we're going to spend an hour on a Saturday morning sometime planting seeds.
Yep.
And just hanging out outside.
Absolutely.
I would be, and I understand that my circumstances are different. I get all that. But I would be more willing, I think, to say, yeah, I can go spend an hour of quality time with my son when I'm not working to go do that. And so I think the fact, and parental involvement, I think across the board is an issue. But if we're crafting these opportunities, like you have done, I think very well at CTK for sure, that maybe that given the right opportunity, the parents would be involved. It's just, I guess, adjusting the situation in the right way to make it tenable.
I think absolutely there's providing the opportunity. And I think also having a mindset, changing your expectation and your mindset about what that looks like.
Right.
So first of all, as you said, outside of actual work hours, whether it's a weekend or even like an early evening kind of situation, that's, I think, a totally possible opportunity for parents, even in a low parental involvement environment. Sure. Theoretically. I've not actually done that, so I will caveat whoever out there is upset with that statement. Please forgive me. I'm acknowledging. So, but I have found in my own school, which I have all kinds of supports in my own school, so I've got lots of privileges here. They require service.
Sure.
At our private school, and many private schools do have that opportunity, that requirement. Because I offer opportunities on the weekends, I have parents come that can't come to the other things. And I'll tell you that April and May service day that happens for Family Service Day, it's quite full usually because people are trying to get in their hours. So and what I find, unfortunately, good news, bad news, is the parents that come to those are usually parents that actually have almost no garden experience. And so it's an education, honestly, more than service. There is, we're having an education day. And I think that's the other framing. The other framing is you're building a community.
Yeah.
And whoever shows up, that is your chance to actually engage and maybe create a new gardener. Who knows? I'm not saying it's going to happen every time. But if you frame it like this is an opportunity to build community, this is an opportunity to pique somebody's interest that one time. Let's try that. Let's see if that happens. I don't know, but we'll see.
It's all a big experiment.
Absolutely.
Which is kind of fun.
Absolutely. And I think there are great opportunities out there, even if you don't have kids. Or if you do have kids, the Heart of Lubbock Community Garden, they do a great job of hosting. You can go have input as to what they have an event coming up in January. Every month they have a come and give input on what you think the garden should plant or whatever. I mean, they have a whole thing. Then there's regular service days. And I've actually modeled a fair amount after Elizabeth Rosler. So thank you, Beth, out there for having done that. Because that made me think, I need to have my family service days at somewhat regular intervals so that people know what to expect. Every month on around the 2nd or 3rd, depending on how it falls in the calendar, like weekend on a Saturday, we're going to have some time. I can look for that.
Yeah.
I can, and so, yeah, they have tasting Tuesdays. They have all kinds of amazing stuff at Heart of Lubbock. So definitely people should check that out.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's the way to do all of those things.
Oh, yes.
Consistency, repetition. I had a former colleague when I was with Extension that said education is a long and repetitive process.
Yes.
Which is maybe the truest thing I've ever heard anyone say about education. Because I think we have to be presented with things, whether it's new facts, new processes, new skills, more than once. I think, the data shows that. The science shows that we are not, as a species, instant adopters of things, right? We get new information, and even if that information's good, it takes a little bit for it to get through our skulls. And we see that in society. We see that with so many things that the data's out there, the science is good, but people will not latch onto it because maybe one, it's not presented in the right way, in a practical, approachable way. But two, because we say something to someone once and we just expect them to get it.
Yes.
And so I think when you say that, yeah, you're doing these service days over and over and over, and people know what to expect, they know when to come, they know what they're going to get when they get there. That is, I think, the right way to do education.
Right. Yeah. And so in public health, we have different models of behavior change. So different people have tried to study and figure out, why don't people, we all know exercise is good for us, but why don't people do it? We all know that eating more vegetables are good for us. And yet,
right.
And so what we have, there is some literature around this argument about, and now I'm trying to remember what the model says, but it starts out with things like, maybe I know the information, but I still have a barrier about it. So knowing the information isn't enough.
Right.
Okay. Maybe I know the information. Let's say it's running, and I have running shoes now. Okay. I've got, right. I'm closer to actually doing it.
Right.
And so, I am trying to think of all of those things when I think about gardening, when I think about growing your own food. So here's some reasons. How about this? Here's some reasons why you should grow your own food.
Okay, yeah.
I'm going to give you a range because everybody, again, just like behavior, maybe, but just like running, maybe you're going to be motivated by mental health aspects. Maybe you're going to be motivated by, there's all kinds of, so I'm going to give all kinds of reasons.
Sure.
Growing your own food is opportunity for physical exercise. Being outside. There's science around us being outside actually is good for our health, just period.
Right.
Whether it's the exposure to the sun or vitamin D, whether it's touching soil has been shown to literally decrease our risk of depression.
Wow.
So it is mental health benefits right there. Whether or not you grew something, whether or not anything actually grew and you ate it, there's mental health benefits. There are mental health benefits about not being on your screen, not being, that kind of thing. So there's opportunities there. There's literature for children, some literature that says that if a child grows it, they're more likely to taste it and more likely to eat it. So that's part of the argument behind school gardens in particular, is all these parents out there say, well, why would I grow it? My kids aren't going to eat it anyway. Well, in fact, it's kind of almost the if you build it, they will come model. Thank you, Field of Dreams. So
science.
Right, science. It's there too.
Yeah.
So if you grow it, there's a good chance, an increased chance that your child would try it. I'm not saying they're going to eat it every day.
Right. They're
going to try it. And P.S., I have 2 children. They're still little
artichokes.
And so, they're going to choose.
I'm sorry, I'll stop laughing.
Dubbing. You get to do your dubbing.
That makes me so happy.
There you go. So some days they're totally into some vegetable, and other days they're not. So I have a child my older child is a little better, but my younger child is quite picky. And for a while, all he would eat were pea shoots.
That's an oddly specific.
Specific. This child, bougie child. So pea shoots and shishito peppers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Those are fancy tastes for a...
Which I literally have to go buy from a farmer. Thank you, E3 Farms.
Yeah, good job, Ethan.
Good job, Ethan. So but then I would buy a bag of pea shoots and spend, I'm sorry, Ethan, I think it's $3 or $4. spend that money on it. And then he would say, I don't actually like pea shoots anymore. So I am with you, parents. I get it. That is frustrating. It is so frustrating. So, yeah. But if you grow it, they're more likely to try it.
Right.
And just because he doesn't like it today doesn't mean he won't eat it when I bring it back another week. So I did a veggie plate this week. And by the way, my child had recently said I don't like pea shoots. And on the veggie plate were sliced cucumbers, sliced peppers, and some pea shoots. And I knew of those 3 items, the only thing that he actually would eat would be the pea shoots. Mm-hmm. And he just, even though he had said he didn't like them before, but he had eaten them. Mm-hmm. And that kid jumped in there and grabbed a handful of pea shoots.
Well,
and it was presented in more of a like, here's in the middle of the table.
Just get what you want.
Choose what you want. Yeah. There's no blah, blah. It wasn't on his plate. And that's, you get a whole different experience.
Illusion of choice, right?
Absolutely. Like, yeah. And yet I chose something that I knew you would have some, attachment to.
Right.
And so now we still work on trying things. I do it at schools. I do it anytime I'm in a garden. One of my favorite things is to literally tear a leaf off of something and like eat it myself and be like, oh gosh, that's great. Whatever. Arugula. Anybody else want to try it? It's kind of spicy. I don't know. Does anybody like spicy Cheetos? Like those hot Cheetos? You want to try some?
This is pretty much that.
Yes. And they will totally try it. And yes, 3 out of 4 of those people will be like, that's interesting. One person will be like, oh my God, I'm never going to do that again.
You said this was a Cheeto.
Exactly. But that's fine. That's fine. So yeah. That is another reason to garden is the exposure. It's just exposure to vegetables. Another reason to garden is science. For schools is science education. I have literally had a 6th grader tell me, now tell me again, carrots, what tree do carrots grow on?
Oh no.
What tree do they grow on? Those were her words.
It wasn't, do they grow on trees? It was, I know they grow on trees.
Again, what tree that they grow on? And carrots, by the way, if you are not buying carrots, that is like 99% of children will eat carrots. Uh-huh. So if you need a vegetable that your child's going to eat, by all means, please buy some carrots. That's level 1. Eat produce. Level 2, buy some local produce. Level 3, for your overachievers, which is where I'm going to push everybody to, is growing your own.
Grow your own food.
If you pulling carrots out of the ground, pulling radishes out of the ground, which you wouldn't necessarily expect, pulling any of that thing out of the ground, onions, radishes, carrots, kids, Christmas. It is Christmas for kids. It's Christmas in July. It's Christmas in I don't care when. They love it.
Yeah.
They love all of that. And they'll fight over it. We'll have to have a contest to see who gets to pull the tallest carrot. Huh. Okay, I've got a number behind my back. Guess whoever's closest get to pull that tallest carrot. Like, I mean,
it's like a surprise, right? Like
yes.
there's this element of mystery to like, I don't know what I'm going to get.
Root vegetables.
It's the funniest thing.
It's magical.
It's the funniest thing. Or like
yes.
digging potatoes.
Garlic.
Or whatever.
Oh, digging potatoes. That is also a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, they all love that. And I think as adults and gardening, we get to this place where we're like, oh gosh, I did all that work and we only got 4 potatoes.
Right.
Why would I even do this?
Yeah.
But what's cool is when you involve those kids and they have such a good time, at least for me, maybe it's my educator side, but like for me, I'm like, yeah, even though we only grew 5 sweet potatoes, it was so much fun to dig them out and everybody had fun. I had fun and it just, I don't know, I feed off their energy.
Well, no, and so, I totally agree. And I think and this is maybe a little bit of a tangent, but I don't know. I think as we, especially in today's society, as we like age and move through it and get more responsibilities, we lose our propensity for wonder.
Yes.
Right? Because we've been there, we've done it, we've got a job, we go to work, we sit in the car for an hour, we get home, whatever. And we get fewer and fewer opportunities to re-experience that the older we get.
Yes.
You can go to a new place. You can go,
travel,
I'm going to go spend a week in the Alps, but not everyone can do that.
Right.
I sure can't do that. Right. I can maybe drive to New Mexico.
So.
Yeah, exactly.
Here we go.
The Alps of the New Mexico wasteland. New Mexico is beautiful. If you're in New Mexico, I'm so sorry.
Yes.
But the eastern part of it is Mars. We're going to have to rescue Matt Damon from there eventually. But for me, the way that I experience that wonder, and I've been very fortunate and privileged in my life that I've gotten to see and do a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But watching my son discover these things for the first time
Oh, yes.
is, I think, it's like wonder by proxy, right?
Absolutely.
And so if you need motivation as an adult to get your kids into something like this, into some kind of science, I think any science, I don't care what.
Yeah.
But gardening, pulling up carrots.
Yes.
Getting to see that look on their face the first time they realize, oh, I love carrots. This is what it looks like.
Oh, yeah.
You tell them a banana's, well, I do this to adults and it's fun. Banana's a berry. Like, what? That's not what. All kinds of stuff like that. I think that if you need a motivation other than the health and just the time with your kids, that's a big one. That is a selfish thing, that there's so few ways I can get that feeling,
that wonder,
except through the experience of others.
Yes. And so to try and bring in that wonder, we have, like with carrots, especially after I had that student say, which tree does the carrot grow on? I literally had that class dig out the carrots, not pull them up. Okay. We literally dug out half the side, and you can find it on CTK Garden. There's even a hashtag, #halfdigroots, I think. Because it gives them an opportunity to see it almost as if you were to have it in glass, and like see underneath the ground. And so they can see where the carrots as a root for the plant are. So they could, anyway, it's just a way of connecting them and seeing that wonder. As a gardener, as an adult, you might want to do something like that, because then that gives you some feedback about how good did my thinning do? What does my soil look like? Am I having too many rocks? And like that kind of feedback.
Sure.
It's still super neat to do it that way. Like, that's super useful. Now, are farmers going to have time? They don't have time to kind of get that stuff out, get it out.
Right. Right.
But for you and I, like, we can do that, and we can experience that wonder in those places. So,
and it's exciting.
Yes.
I think it's exciting.
I agree. I don't know. But yeah, so my child who is picky, I also am reflecting back. Your children don't remember the things they like and don't like.
Right.
Yes, that changes all the time. Yeah. So whatever. I have a picture of him eating lettuce from my garden, and he literally said, "Mommy, these carnitas are delicious."
Okay.
He was, I think he was 3 at the time. But I was like, that's lettuce, not carnitas. But yes, I agree, it's delicious.
Delicious. Yep.
And today, if I put lettuce on his plate, or I even put lettuce, he would say, "No, I don't eat that."
They're carnitas, don't worry. They're delicious.
Exactly.
Put them on your taco. It's great.
Exactly. It's going to be great. So
That's
yes.
funny.
Yes. They will eat it. So that is a reason for gardening. I think community building is another reason for gardening. If you're social justice, if you've got any kind of interest in that kind of thing, I think there's that opportunity for any audience members out there that care about climate change. Gardening yourself is a climate change opportunity. If that turns you off, just forget I just said that.
No, don't. No, I'm gonna lay down the gauntlet right here. Episode whatever this is, 10 or something. You should be concerned about climate change.
Okay, we're gonna be okay with that.
You are out there listening to this. That is the thing you should be concerned about.
And gardening yourself reduces your impact because anything you've harvested has 0 miles of travel.
Right.
So 0 miles of travel that you've impacted. I joke, there's local food and then there's hyper local food. Right. And so the thing from your backyard, that's hyper local or micro local. I don't know which one to use, but
they're both good.
Yes,
I like both of them.
Right. So uber local.
That's the best one. Uber local foods. Start a new movement.
Right. So that is, you've reduced, and if you want to go for gold status on your climate change potential, your own personal, whatever, you're going to have to start composting.
Yeah.
Because that also impacts your personal footprint. And if you're gardening, you might as well compost because you want to use compost in your own garden. That reduces your cost. If you're gardening, you want to use compost because you're going to have some waste from your garden, whether it's the tomato stems or whatever, some parts that you want to do something with. And so there's all kinds of great reasons. But yeah, climate change, if you care about climate change, then gardening definitely should be one of your thoughts.
Oh, absolutely. And people, I think, we have made this, and one of the I've said this on a different podcast I've done, but not this one, but a different show I've been on. But this is an aside. I'm going to get in trouble for this, but whatever. It's been a good ride so far. Whatever.
There we go.
One of the worst things we've done is politicizing climate change.
Oh my gosh.
That has absolutely ruined this planet, is politicizing climate change. So, taking the politics out of it, if you're looking for a way to take personal responsibility for this planet, the things Jessica just mentioned is a good way to do it. No, it's not going to solve everything. But if we're all doing it, we can take big chunks out of the problem.
It takes absolutely. We all could be doing a tiny bit and a tiny bit more. And by doing a tiny bit more, we're making a bigger impact. So yeah, I think, and I think if you care about climate change and you don't have room, or it's not on the list right now to be doing your own garden.
Sure.
Then the next best thing would be to buy local. Yeah. Because buying local, again, reduces that mileage that whatever had to do. Honestly, buying local, many of those people, they may not be certified organic. That's a whole conversation. But they are practicing low chemical or no chemical practices. They are composting, I promise you. So yeah, buying local at either Woolworth Farmers Market or at the Lubbock Downtown Farmers Market, you're going to find that's also
and wherever you are, I can I'm not going to say guarantee, but I can bet somewhere not too far from you there is a farmers market, a farm stand, something. And I also understand the argument that which is a true thing, and as we talk about social justice and all that,
right,
the local foods do tend to be more expensive. There is a premium price. However, there's more and more programs coming in. Like, this is maybe a topic for another episode, but we have this Double Up Food Bucks program that's a national program that we've adopted here recently, where through this program, if you go and shop at a farmer's market or several other places, with like a SNAP card, or
Lone Star card, SNAP or WIC. So generally, Woolworth Farmers Market, you can go into the office. So that's our local year-round market, and if you spend it's up to $20. Now I'm going to get in trouble. They will give you $20 more. I think it's 20.
I think 20 is right.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's right.
I can't remember if it's 10 and 10 or 20. Anyway, they will give you that value in addition that you can spend on local produce. Yep. The first purchase has to be something you could buy on your WIC or Lone Star card anyway. That doesn't have to be produce. That could be meat. That could be dairy, whatever. So you get double your value at a local producer at a farmer's market. And you're putting that money back into the local economy.
Yep.
You're supporting local businesses, small businesses. And so that's a whole other list of benefits.
Yeah. There's a whole lot we could talk about. And I'm watching our time, and I'm like, I really want to keep talking for a while. So there's a couple more things we'll cover. Okay. And then this will be a little longer than most of them, and I don't mind that.
That's thoughtful of you. Thank you.
No, I mean, because this is a really good conversation. And, but I hope one of the messages I hope people that are listening are getting is that this is a complex system.
Yes.
Right. From local food to climate change to education, everything else. This is a complex system we're dealing in. And I think we have to treat it appropriately. Mm-hmm. We can't just say, no, food is food. Vegetables are vegetables. We'll learn it or we won't. I think we have to be intentional about the way we approach these systems and all of that. So the question I wanted to ask you, or one of the questions I wanted to ask you coming into this is, and we've covered it a little bit,
pieces of it, yeah.
But so from a public health standpoint, and I'll put you on the spot a little bit, and you can answer however you need to. But through efforts like what you're doing, how much of an impact do you think we can have on this public health crisis? Because I'm going to call what we have in the United States, for sure, I can't speak for any other part of the world, a public health crisis where the amount of processed food we eat, and I'm guilty of this too. I'm terribly unhealthy. We eat processed food all the time. It's a fast food culture. All of these things, our vegetable consumption, fruit consumption, basic nutrient consumption has gone way down. And even when we're buying some of those things, we're not picking the most nutrient dense and most efficient types of foods for ourselves.
Sure.
How much of an impact do you think we can really have on that through these local gardening efforts?
Yikes. Okay,
it's a big question.
That is a big question. Okay, I'm going to start by saying that we do have a public health crisis, and so it's interesting, like doing this hunger and horticulture and working with the Supplements Hunger Solutions, people say, well, there's no way you could grow enough food. That's one of the other barriers I've heard, by the way. No way you grow enough food. How much do you grow? That's another question. We are at our public health crisis at this point. I was just listening to your last podcast. Most recent one for this episode was the one with Hallie
Casey,
and
yeah.
she's saying, and she's right. Our farmers have gotten to the point where they are actually growing enough food. Our rates of actual starvation hunger are going down. In the United States, our bigger problem is actually nutrition. It's actually getting access to good nutrition for people that are food insecure. They may not be starvation hungry, but they are food insecure. They don't know when or where their next meal will be, how nutrient dense it will be. So if something comes their way, they're going to consume it because who knows what is next. Or if something comes their way, they're going to portion that out because who knows what's next. I mean, so food insecurity is our bigger problem in the States, and nutrition impact. So from school and community gardens, what I'm hoping for as far as public health is more about exposure so that when they get something, if they were to get it from a food bank or from a pantry or heck in the cafeteria line, they're not averse to it because they've seen it grown in the ground, because they've seen. So getting that exposure is, I think, a value and a public health value so that we improve nutrition. I also think as far as our whole population, not just our poverty-stricken population, our whole population, nobody's good at eating more vegetables. No. Not one person. I mean, if the recommended amount of vegetables a day is 5 servings. Let's let that sink in for half a second. So what's a serving? Anything that's like cut up fruit or whatever vegetable thing, half a cup is a serving. Okay, so carrots, any root vegetables, tomatoes, all that kind of stuff, half a cup. If you're talking about greens, okay, you could fill half a cup like 2 leaves. So
that doesn't count. No,
friend. You need more. You need a cup of greens. Okay. That's spinach, that's lettuce, that's mustard greens. I could name all kinds of things because I do love all the vegetables. But we don't have to do that. So, how many people out there are getting 5 servings of vegetables? And that's a challenge for our listeners. Write down what you ate yesterday, everything you ate, and see if you've got, by those measurements, half a cup and a cup, if you've gotten 5 servings. And I promise you 90% of people probably.
Oh, no. No.
I mean, and what we know from actual research, people actually doing research out there among kids, is they're not getting vegetables, whether they got there. And yes, we have policies in place with school lunches to try and increase some of those. Some of those policies sometimes get rolled back, but whatever, conversation for another day.
Sure. Yeah.
And then at home, what are the opportunities? So I've heard parents say, well, I feed them well enough at home. So if lunch is where it is what it is. So are you offering it? Because honestly, can you possibly eat, even if it's cut up tomatoes? Imagine this, 2.5 cups of tomatoes at dinner, because that's the only thing you like.
There's a lot of tomatoes.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, theoretically, it'd be really great if you could spread out during the day, because at dinner, you're just not going to get it all in. And did you eat it at breakfast? I mean, I love my spinach and my eggs, but but not everybody does that. That's very rare that we have
there's
a
no
vegetable.
Spinach in Pop-Tarts.
Yeah. No, there's no spinach in Pop-Tarts. No. So anyway, yes, nutrition is our challenge. It's our challenge for everyone.
Sure.
And part of that is access. Part of that is time. Could go back to the anthropology of it all. We no longer sit and prepare meals. We think, oh, it's so much work. It's so much time. Our, third generation, our grandparents spent a lot of time in food preparation, and we're just not. Yeah. We're just not spending it. And now it's so much time. We have cut back. I mean, the studies of time spending of things, we've cut back on all kinds of things. How long it takes to clean our house, how long it takes to make our food, how long it takes to buy our food, grow our food. So we do have an opportunity. We just choose not to spend it making food. And I think that part of the challenge there for our culture is to make it something you get something out of. Mm-hmm. Whether that's I'm spending family time chopping up vegetables. It's an activity we're doing together. Whether that's I'm going to a friend's house and we're doing a meal prep together, and I get to talk to my friend and hang out with them, and then I get to take home meal. Like, it's a community thing. Yeah. So that kind of builds an opportunity for more So there's opportunities, and it's my job, theoretically, as a public health professional, to try and figure out what could I like tie to this that would make that behavior more exciting for you and more likely that you would do it. Whether it's eat that vegetable, and part of that is I got to figure out what your barrier is.
Yeah.
So I'm like coming in from all the angles,
for
everybody.
Well, and
so yeah,
and that's again, it is such a complex issue because even me, I know all that.
You have the education part. Check.
However, it's so much easier to be like, it's 5 o'clock. Got to go pick Bradley up. We're just gonna pick up food on the way home.
Absolutely.
It's so much easier. And I I've spent years studying this, not from the same perspective maybe, but on the other side of it, the production side of it. And I know these things, but even for me, it is so hard to eat well.
Yes.
And it's for, and again, I've mentioned this in the other episode that, I'm in a place in my life where I can go buy fresh local produce. I can afford to do it. I have those outlets. We have the infrastructure here. It's possible. But I still am not doing it as much as I can. So I think that maybe these efforts, like all the stuff you just said, but these efforts of introducing it younger again. Yep. Because that's something that maybe the last 30 years has gone away, is that the garden education, the natural, there's a word I want. It's not come to me, so it doesn't matter. Yeah. But that type of education has gone away a little bit in our school systems. And bringing it back a little bit and introducing these things at a young age, maybe for our next generation, will pay huge dividends. I hope it does. Absolutely. For my son's generation and your kids' generation.
I would also argue it's not just garden education, it's culinary education.
Oh, yeah. We
are a third and fourth generation removed from knowing how to peel a garlic. Huh. Take a garlic. Yeah. So as my thinking about my model to get someone to grow it and then eat it. So I've gotten a garlic grown. We planted it. It grew. I had a kid pull it. This is a literal story. I had a kid pull it at a service day, and part of my connection is I want to have that kid take home that vegetable because now they've pulled it and they have an attachment to it, and so maybe they'll eat it. Okay, so tie it from seed to harvest to plate. He pulled it. I sent it with him. His parents were still at service day. He came back to me and said, "My mom says we don't do this. Wow. We don't cook with this. We don't do this." And he was a middle school student. And so here's the challenge. Parents complain about their kids and how their kids aren't, helping. Parents also need to have a little bit of flexibility on their end to take a little more time, to be a little more patient, and actually have culinary time with their child. I'm going to call it culinary time because it sounds fancy.
I like it. I'm going to start doing that. That's awesome.
Because, P.S., maybe as a 3-year-old, they're not so helpful. And so it's a lot of cost on your end to get them in that kitchen. I get that, okay? So my children are now 6 and 9. In a week, it'll be 10. And I'm telling you, the 10-year-old is actually flipping helpful. Huh. Sometimes when he wants to be. So, but part of that is you have to put in the time when they're little to say, like, it doesn't matter if you make a mistake. My 6-year-old was like, "Oh no, I cut that cucumber too thick." I'm like, "Well, we'll eat it."
Okay.
What's the worst that could happen? Yeah. So getting yourself that pressure off, like, it's so annoying to have them in the kitchen. I agree. It's really annoying to have them in the kitchen. But if you can frame it in this place of like, we're having fun. This is culinary time. This is what we do. And yes, that means you have to be at your house. And then, travel time, all the things. Yeah. I'm totally with you. But on a weekend, maybe you chop some extra vegetables together.
And meal prep.
And put it in the fridge. And I'm not even talking about like actually putting it in a meal. I'm just talking about having cut up vegetables. Yeah. Because having cut up vegetables means you're going to eat it, P.S. Yeah. Means that when you come home at 5 o'clock and you were like, I already picked up food, but you know what else is in your fridge? Chopped up carrots. Yeah. And cucumbers and bell peppers, whatever it is. If you did that once a week, I call them snack foods. Yeah. Snack peppers, snack whatever. That automatically increases your veggie consumption. Many times a night, I'm not cooking an extra vegetable for my kids, but I will have something chopped up that I can put on the side. I can always add something. Yeah. Frozen peas, by the way, that is a weekly, if not twice a weekly, vegetable in my house because it's so easy. And my kids, I don't know, They're weird. They like to eat them frozen. They literally don't want them heated.
They're like vegetable popsicles.
They're like
Dippin' Dots.
Dippin' Dots.
But
they want pea Dippin' Dots.
I don't know what to do with that, but
so,
okay.
So we have macaroni from the box and peas and frozen peas, and they want them frozen.
Still frozen. Okay.
Why wouldn't you mix that inside your macaroni? Why wouldn't you melt that together? Why wouldn't you eat that mixed bite? Don't care. You ate peas, good to go.
Yeah, we win.
Done.
That's awesome.
Yes.
So having all kinds of new ideas.
Yes. So having some of these things in your back pocket about like tools, like meal prepping, but not even making a dish. I'm all for making a dish and eating it over a couple days. I love myself some meal prep. But you don't even have to do that. Just cut up some vegetables and have it in your fridge ready. That's already going to get you 4 more servings of vegetables over your week than you had last week.
You know, that reminds me of this whole conversation reminds me, and we'll kind of end on this. I got one more question for you, but we'll end on this.
Yes.
I shared this on Facebook, I guess, last week, but there's a cartoonist, an online cartoonist I follow. And the cartoon's called Lunar Baboon. I'll link it.
Yes.
And so I just shared one, and it was like this little girl comes up to her dad, and she's got a handful of tools. Said, "Daddy, can I play with your tools?" I don't know if you saw that one.
I did. That may be why I'm thinking about it. Yes.
And he says, "Sure, have fun," you know? And the next panel, he's talking to a friend or something. He said, "That's not going to end well." And he says, "I disagree." Or, "That's going to end poorly." He said, "I disagree. That's going to start poorly. Who knows how it'll end?" Yes. And the third panel is like them just standing there and like crashing noises coming off screen. But then the final panel is this guy sitting, older.
Yes.
Sitting at his table doing a crossword or something, and his daughter standing in the background saying, "Hey, like with the tool belt," and says, "Hey, I finished fixing the roof."
Yes.
And we don't know where those little things like letting our kids cut a cucumber wrong will end.
Absolutely. And I think that so there are some tools. If you're interested in trying this out and you have the means, I can send you some links of some like kid-friendly knives, kid-friendly, like there's this one thing. I mean, honestly, kids love like little special things.
Gadgets.
This is your thing. This is your, and so there's one thing. It's got not a serrated. It's got like a wiggly blade. I'm gonna call Wiggle. That's how I'm gonna call it. And a handle. It'll be in the notes anyway. And it makes the cucumbers have like a wave.
Yeah.
Right. So like you've seen that.
Yeah.
And so my kids were like, "Yes, I'm using that tool.
This is my thing.
I want the wave. I want that one." And so that makes them happy. I walk away. Their both hands are on a handle. They're not going to cut their fingers. I'm doing 4 other things, and they're cutting up cucumbers. And maybe it took a long time. I don't care because I'm already doing other things, and my kids are 6 and 10. So like,
sure. But there's always something. Like there's always something they can do.
The plastic knife, though, you can do that. The plastic one I have, like they're not going to hurt themselves.
Yeah.
Like it's fine. And so if we can, as parents, can have little opportunities that they can do things and make mistakes, and nobody's going to cry. And nobody's no long-lasting harm. It starts out poorly. I'm totally with. Like, that's such a great message. But now, as a 10-year-old, he can cut all those things.
Yeah. He's got skills. Actual life skills.
Absolutely. And does it do it perfect? No. Who cares?
It doesn't matter.
Who cares?
It's not you're not serving it in a restaurant. He's not going after a crispy award or whatever.
Absolutely. But he did something, and you didn't have to do it.
Yeah.
You delegated.
Yeah. Delegation's great.
And if they think they're having fun, they'll do it.
Yeah.
Like
you could. It's easy to convince a kid they're having fun.
Yes.
Believe it or not,
Seriously.
you can trick a kid into thinking they're enjoying something.
Seriously. So yeah, all those things.
So
okay, your last one.
No, last question, and you've listened to some of these, so you know that I ask this, and I don't know that we can peg one down now because we've talked about a lot of helpful life tips. But I'm going to throw it at you anyway because that's what we do. If you could pick one thing to tell our listeners. It can be whatever. I don't even care. I had a former guest or another guest that was like, "Is it okay if it's not a plant one?" I was like, "I don't care. Just whatever."
Right.
If you had one thing that you could tell our listeners, to make their gardening lives or whatever else like easier and more successful, what would that be?
One thing is eat more vegetables. I don't care how you do it. I don't care what's your favorite way. If you're getting a green smoothie or you're cutting up snacky vegetable things, if you eat them with ranch, I don't care. Eat more vegetables. See if you can eat 5 servings. That's my level 1, eat more vegetables.
Okay.
So, and I said my level 2 and 3, but And ideally, you're not eating 2.5 cups of tomatoes because honestly, you should at least eat, public health says, 3 kinds of vegetables.
Sure. It's a lot of lycopene.
So 5 servings of 3 different things because you need a range.
Yeah.
And so.
Is coffee a vegetable? It's a smoothie. No?
It's a smoothie.
I'm not going to tell people. I won't tell people that. I'm not going to cut it out, but coffee is not a smoothie as much as I want it to be.
Exactly.
Well, Jessica, I'll put all your contact information in the show notes, as well as some of the links you said you'd send along, which I appreciate.
Yes.
But where can we find you? What things can we look up that Jessica Caroom does?
Yes. So you can find me on Instagram and Facebook at CTK Garden. So that's the school garden webpage, and I share all the stuff we're doing at the school, whether it's kid harvesting, that kind of thing. So it gives you an idea for your own kids, your own backyard, your own self. Heck, if kids can do it, you can do it. I also talk about how to eat vegetables, how to prepare them, that kind of thing. And composting, because I am a big fan of that too. So you'll find all those 3 things in there. And then also at South Plains Hunger is the Facebook and Instagram location for all of South Plains, different connections, whether it has to do with child hunger or senior hunger, but also what I do, #hunger and horticulture. And so, you can find all those.
All right.
So
cool. Well, thank you so much for coming in and talking with me. I really enjoyed that. I think that was a great episode.
Thank you. That was fun.
All right. Hey, thanks again so much for listening. I really enjoyed that episode. I learned a lot from Jessica, and I always do every time I see her. And I hope you did too. I think the ideas of spending time outdoors and getting some fresh air and sunlight and learning what it is to grow our own food and teaching that to our kids is super important, especially right now, as much as any other time, especially right now, y'all. So get outside and garden and just enjoy nature. As always, you can find us on social media as Planthropology. We're on Instagram, Twitter, and the Face Space. The group is Planthropology's Cool Plant People, which, again, you should definitely be a part of. We'll be back next week. I don't actually know yet which episode it's going to be, so it will be an adventure for all of us. I think it's probably Dr. Earlbeck and Kelsey Opat from Ag Communications here at Texas Tech, but we'll see. Life's always an adventure. Leave us some feedback and let us know if there is anything you would like to hear covered. If there's something we could talk about that would help you as you homeschool and all of that, or something that you're just interested in, I would love to try to address it. Y'all are the very best. Stay cool, stay safe, and we'll see you next week.